Today, I want to talk about how Quaker foundations are fueling open borders. And this is especially true in the UK. It may be true in other places. But let me just start off by saying I'm not talking about all Quakers. I've been personally messaged by Quakers that aren't happy about the direction of Quaker travel. And let's just say that this travel has gone a bit Marxist. And I don't really know what's going on. Some of what I see of Quakers, it seems like there are quite a few woke Quakers in there. Very sanctimonious, some footage I've seen. So I think there is a bit of that, even if there are good Quakers who I would agree with. But I also get the sense that it's been captured by people that have realised Quaker foundations have a lot of money. And I won't go into the whole history. There's a really good BBC History Extra episode. Yes, I am recommending BBC content. The History Extra podcast is excellent. There's one on Quakers if you want to get the gist. I can't say I ever myself thought I would be a Quaker researcher, but the point is, it's like the Paul Hamlyn Foundation. Paul Hamlyn, just as with all the Quakers that these foundations have their names named after, very successful rich people in their era, they had an ethos of philosophy that people are trying to translate into 2025, and that may not be translated as they would actually wish. That's the only thing I can say. But without further ado, Quakers, the foundations, are really fueling open borders. And I've done an article, if you want to subscribe to my Substack, and you'll find there's a whole section on Quakers. I've had to dive in because I write a lot about taxpayer waste, but not everything bad happening at the moment is due to taxpayer funding. So there's basically several really big names in the Quaker world of funding. There's anything Joseph Rowntree is a Quaker foundation, and the Barrow Cadbury Trust. So, you know, the Cadbury's chocolate factory, that is Quakers. Rowntree Confectionery, that is also Quaker-led. And that explains partly how they got that wealth. They're good at business. They were really good at confectionery, and some of the chocolatier strand and the confectionery strand comes from the temperance movement. Though in the Quaker community there was a concern about alcoholism and the damage that alcohol did, and that's why there's a correlation or a growth of confectionery and chocolate. I mean, I said I wouldn't do the history. Anyway, Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust, in the last year, it distributed £13.8 million in funds, including £210,000 to the Migrants Law Project, a legal and public legal education project hosted by Asylum Aid, £150,000 to SDS Solidarity Detainee Support, a student-led initiative working in solidarity with migrants in and outside detention centres. It gave £130,000 to the Migrant Democracy Project, which is building power with migrants at home and at home in the UK to shape society rooted in justice, reflecting our needs and interests. We believe every resident, no matter where they are from, should have equal access to democracy. So this is what I mean. They're getting the votes to people that aren't from the UK. And they awarded £180,000 to Migrants in Culture, whose website reads, "We move towards our collective capacity to imagine and to live without borders." Then you've got the Joseph Rowntree Reform Trust. Again, it's like the Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust. It's given money to the Migrant Democracy Project, and to continue developing their Our Home, Our Vote campaign to persuade the government to extend the right to vote to all residents. And I'd say the Joseph Rowntree Reform Trust is quite into electoral reform and bringing votes down in terms of the voting age and things like proportional representation. So that's where it funds the same things as the other Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust, but it has more of a focus on electoral funding, in my opinion. And other grants awarded include 93,000 to the Migrants' Rights Network, Migrants' Right Network, a charity that stands in solidarity with all migrants and their fight for rights and justice. And its website reads, "We are a diverse team, majority led by migrantized people and people of colour." What is migrantized people? The thing about lefties, right, the far left, they just make up words all the time. And then they're like, don't you have a degree? Because then you'd understand what migrantized means, even though it's just bollocks. Anyway, then you've got 125,000 to Polish Migrants Organised for Change. And then you've got the Barry Cadbury Trust, the chocolate people. They have their own migration program to promote the fair and dignified treatment of refugee, asylum seekers and migrants, among other things. And £20,000 to the Asylum and Refugee Council, £75,000 to Asylum Matters, £125,000 to Asylum Support and Immigration Resource Team. And the worst thing about this, the Conservatives gave it £250,000 of taxpayers' money in 2004, I think it was. What's that all about? It already has vast reserves of money. Anyway, I've got a whole section on Quakers on my Substack. Like I say, I did not think I'd ever write about Quakers. There are lots of good Quakers. The legacy of Quakers is profound and great. It is just, the foundations are now just causing real chaos in our democracy.